But on the upside, they only lose 2 players off of this year's team, and that keeps Coach Bob Bender upbeat about the future.
We never were able to reach a level of consistency that would allow us to, make more of the season. So it was disappointing in the win-loss record, but as I said, I hope that what it's done is build some character and hunger. As I said, as a staff, was that with the end of the season against Drake, now they're sophomores, and I'm hoping that will improve things for them. They'll gain confidence from their experience, but it's going to take a big effort in order to make it worthwhile.
Like the saying goes, wait till next year. That's what the ISU Redbirds will have to do. Their season's over now, and they'll just have to wait and see if they can turn things around next season. Jeff Moore, 19 Eyewitness Sports Extra.
State, of course, Coach, we don't want to overlook your 2-game win streak because that's big news, but of course there are more important things going on in the world these days, but college basketball will continue on, and I guess Steve Young of the San Francisco 49ers put it best yesterday when I heard him say that if we could help the troops by not doing our jobs, we wouldn't, but that's not the case.
Well, I think everybody in college athletics has taken a long, hard look at what is the best approach. The Missouri Valley has taken a very active stance in this. Yesterday, while we were at Drake in the morning, we were informed that the conference was on a conference call with ADs and presidents to decide whether or not to play our game against Drake, and I assume the Southern and Southwest, our Tulsa game as well. We are very concerned and very aware of what is happening in the Persian Gulf. I think something that makes me very proud is the amount of knowledge that the players have about what's going on and their questions. When we got to Drake on Wednesday evening, the kids went right into the hotel lobby. They had a big widescreen TV there, and they're watching all the coverage. And some of their questions were very good. For instance, what happens if they do mandate a draft? Are we eligible for the draft? And yes, they are. What about if we have brothers or sisters over already, what is the policy? And so they are very concerned, and they should be, because this is something, as you said, puts basketball and athletics in general right in perspective.
I think the misconception, at least initially, was that, well, these people are going ahead and playing their games and they don't care about that. But from what we've heard from athletes and from you right now, that's definitely not the case.
I watched an interview after the Syracuse game the other evening on ESPN, and they interviewed Jim Boeheim, and I thought his point was well taken, is that he's had numerous letters from soldiers in the Persian Gulf stating to him, hey, I hope that you're able to keep playing because it gives us a release. We're interested. We can't wait to see tapes. The people are sending tapes. And I think all those things for, how can we be helpful from where we're at right now? I think it is by giving people a distraction from the stress of the situation, but also giving, maybe focus. We're going to, as is the rest of the Valley, going to be wearing, the American flag on our uniforms to let people know that we are concerned and we've got those people in our uppermost thoughts.
And we're reminded that during World War II, Franklin Roosevelt kept the movie theaters open and Major League Baseball continued to play too. Of course, the big news, the headline here on the sports page, Vandegaard shot lifts ISU, and you've gone from 0-12 to winning 2 in a row, and in pretty dramatic fashion, you might say.
Well, I think with the adversity we faced throughout the year when we were losing, and with the confidence what it was with the team, to win some close games is probably more beneficial to us than to win a game by a substantial margin. I think the end-of-game situations for a young team like ourselves is to see their execution then pay off with a win. And now the game against Indiana State, we handled it in, I think, a very good fashion, and we're efficient. Against Drake, we did some good things. We faltered down the stretch, but then found a way to win. And I think the old White Sox adage about winning ugly sometimes is a very good description of the way the Drake game ended up. But there were 2 things that happened at the end of the game that were very good to see. Was Todd Wamehaner recognizing the time on the clock and penetrating. When you're up, when the score is tied, they're not going to foul you. So you're going to get some penetration, and then kicking off to Mike Vandegaard, who again recognizes there isn't enough time to take a dribble, and he just went up and took the shot.
And finishing up about the Drake game, let's talk about Reggie Wilson, who had another big night, 19 points. He's really maturing inside, isn't he?
Yeah, he's finishing plays. Lee, he's getting himself open, and his teammates are finding him. That's the first part of it. But second of all is he's keeping the game simple and not trying to be too finesse nor trying to be too fancy. You know, he's just going up and depositing in basketball. Because of that, he's getting fouled, and now his foul shooting is improving, and so he's a more efficient basketball player.
We'll talk more about the Drake game. We'll look at the initial win against Indiana State. We'll have our trivia question and an interview with Chuck Barnes, all when we return to Bob Bender on Basketball. Then you go to the line and make the free throw. When was the last time an ISU...
It was a combination of Drake picking up their intensity. Rudy Washington's comments after the game where he didn't feel they played hard the whole game. Yet in the last 5 minutes, when they were able to cut into the lead and eventually tie it, their intensity level picked up. We got careless with the basketball. We had been real successful in spreading the court on them and getting some easy buckets. Reggie had 2 straight dunks, and we were less aggressive in our third possession. And had we have been, I think that would have taken some of that momentum away from them. And but we made some hesitant passes that either went out of bounds or were deflected, and they stole the ball. Then they came down, and they had been patient really the whole game offensively against our zone, but they got the ball into some key spots and then hit a three-point shot themselves, and that's what made the difference as far as them coming back.
You hit another dramatic shot against Indiana State, the breakthrough game that we've waited all season for, and that was definitely a big night for you.
Well, the Indiana State game, I felt we played well throughout the game. Indiana State played well. I think whenever you win a game, you hope that it's the result of you playing well against an opponent that's playing well, especially when you're trying to tell kids, hey, you know, you can compete, you can win a game. It's not as if somebody comes in and overlooks you. So the Indiana State game provided us with that exact opportunity. You know, Eddie Bird had a real good game for him. He hits a shot at the end to get them, you know, into a tides or into the lead, and then we came back, were patient, and get a good shot, and actually win the game because of a three-point shot.
And coming out of that game, it was interesting to see how the players would react after their first win of the year.
The old guard is on guard. ISU coach Bob Bender defending against a utopian complex after Monday's exhilarating win over Indiana State.
You guys have always had a good attitude this year in spite of the losing streak, but is it a little better now after finally breaking through?
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure off our back, you know, to get the first win. The fans stuck with us throughout all of this. We appreciate that. You know, we knew we were going to get a win, we just didn't win.
Yeah. Is it? Are you trying to guard against maybe getting too excited now and just try and stay with what you were doing before and working hard?
Yeah, we want to keep improving. We know that as the year goes on, that things will start shaping up, and we'll keep getting better, and hopefully more wins will come.
There's not as much pressure on us, you know, to win a game. You know, it's still, you know, we still don't have the, you know, the best record. You know, it's just one win. You know, and so there's still some pressure, but not as much, you know, with the one win.
The Redbirds feeling a little defensive after their Monday night masterpiece, but that's just what the doctor ordered, a big dose of D.
If we keep the defensive pressure up, there's no doubt we're going to win more games. We're going to continue to win games, you know. So, I mean, we know we have to go with it. We go with it, and we'll keep winning.
This is a team that, you know, the old adage about winning ugly sometimes probably holds true. We're not going to win games because we outscore people. We've got to shut people down, give ourselves more offensive opportunities when we're struggling not shooting the ball that well.
That Redbird Review brought to you by S&K Famous Brands Menswear. And, Coach, you have shown a penchant, at least your teams have, for last-second buckets. You did it 3 times in a row last year, and now you're on a 2-game streak with it.
Well, I hope that it continues. If we're still in that position on Saturday of it being close at the end, you have confidence. And it's something that I think every major college basketball team works on. We call them game situations that we run throughout practice, and where you simulate that exact type of last-minute decisions and shots and all of those things. So you do practice them. Of course, when the lights go on and they're keeping score, there's a little more pressure on you, but you know, the habit, the drilling of keeping your head under pressure hopefully will come through, and we have.
How much does that help the team mature the last couple of games? Are they maturing now, or is it just we're seeing them win and we think maybe they're
No, I think they are maturing. I think that they've matured through the adversity they faced early, and with our win at Drake, I have been pleased to see their maturity and handle with success as well. They weren't just simply satisfied to win one game. They went out with confidence. We had played well on the road going into Drake, and I think that was also an experience that they gave them confidence. Then winning the game at Drake gave them even more of a feeling like when we play good defense and take care of the little things on the court, loose balls, rebounding again, then we're going to win games. And so you have two different types of experiences they have to handle, the adversity of losing and then the two successes. If we can keep building on that maturity of handling them in a correct manner, never overlooking anything, getting their rest, all of these things come into play. This is our third game in a week, and against an opponent that's coming in a very fresh and very aggressive state of mind. That's Creighton will.
After the Indiana State win, you went up into the crowd, into the stands, the students back here for the first time this semester. Where did that all start?
Well, last year, later in the season, when we came back after the tournament in Portland and the students came back, I originally just wanted to go up in the stands before the game ever started, even before we warmed up officially the first time, and just spend time with the students, telling them, hey, you guys are doing a great job. You're a big part of this. Keep it up, and just talk with them. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that. And yet when I came out on the floor for our first warm-ups, they were there and it was an opportunity. I went and the response was great. I mean, they seemed to appreciate it and they seemed to have fun with it. And the bottom line is you are supposed to have fun, and it's just growing from there. And I guess it's one superstition I do have. I don't worry about what tie I wore or any of those things, but I do believe that my pregame preparation for my own self is that I want to get and make sure that the students know that we're with them and they're with us, and that's my little way of doing it.
And the great thing, the ISU fans have stuck with you through a tough start this season. We'll be back with Bob Bender on basketball in just a minute. The answer to our trivia question coming up, our Coaches Clinic with Coach Bender, and an interview with Chuck Barnes, all when we return.
This is very great. Actually, I was saying to Coach Jacqueline the other day, we all have gray hair before it's all over with these last-minute buzzer beaters, but it's great to win, especially the first game with Todd Cagel's last-second shot. That was really a thrill. Then Mike's shot yesterday, very exciting.
How much confidence are you guys building now? You guys have had a great attitude all season long in spite of the losses, but how much confidence has built up after these two wins?
It's slowly coming along. Coach Bender, especially when we lost to Southwest Missouri State, it was like we had the game, but in the end we kind of fumbled around. We went and lost it. But as the game progresses, next couple of wins, at the last few seconds we didn't choke, to the point where we lost the game. We came through with some clutch situations. And we finally, pulled it off. Last second shot, that's not a pretty win, but a win's a win.
That's right, especially this season, right?
Right.
I know you're feeling a little better. You had a tough game against DePaul, broke the nose. How's that feeling now?
It's better. I get hit every game in the nose, but, Coach told me once against Indiana State, and I get hit, I back down defensively. And I know that, I just have to play through stuff now. I haven't had a broke nose, a sprained wrist, a pulled hamstring, so I went through everything.
It has been a tough year for you. Yeah. Tell me how you ended up here. I know you played high school ball at Whitney Young with Richard Thomas. How much of an influence did he have on your coming to Illinois State?
Well, Rich and I were good friends in high school. I played with him 2 years, both on varsity level. And we played pretty good. He was a real good influence, but I also like the coaching staff. Mm-hmm. There was no cover up, everything was down to earth. And then, Rich being here, I was like, well, yeah, I'll come play with him anyway because, we're pretty good friends.
All right. Well, good luck. You're playing some great ball. Chuck Barnes describing himself as tall, dark, and handsome in the ISU Media Guide, and he's a good ball player, too.
My mom told me to put that on.
You got to listen to your mother, right? That Redbird Profile brought to you by the Country Companies. Chuck, thanks for joining us. Good luck today against Creighton. Now it's time to go to Coach Bender and our Coaches Clinic for today.
Thanks, Lee. Today's clinic, we want to discuss free throw shooting. It's part of the game that usually has a huge impact on the outcome of every game, whether it be a close one or when you win substantially. It's usually because you've gone to the free throw line and taken advantage of opportunities. When you talk about free throw shooting, you have to start by talking about a routine. Every coach will get with his players and say, get into the same routine and the same rhythm when you go up to the free throw line and never change from it, because that's where your concentration then gets to the peak point where you're going to be able to be successful.
It's
from
like
the free throw
putting
line.
a lot, isn't it?
It's a lot like putting in that you can't change every time you come up to hit a putt. You can't change every time you come to the free throw line. One type of player that has to be proficient in free throw shooting are your inside players. And a lot of times they're the ones who don't necessarily have as much confidence, but they're the ones who are going to go to the free throw line more often. When we start talking about free throw shooting, you talk about the same basic stances and fundamentals as any other shot, except that when you're doing it, you have to be comfortable in how you're going to place your feet. Some people prefer a parallel stance. Other people prefer a staggered stance. That doesn't matter. It depends on the individual right there. The things that you have to concentrate are on, are you going to shoot at the back of the rim or the front of the rim? And then to have a good, deep knee bend, and then follow through. And the phrase that we use is finish your follow through with your hand in the basket. You know, Lee, if you go up and just start to shoot, don't actually shoot the ball, but as you get to the point, all right, and right here, you know, what Lee's got is he's in a position now to get his legs into the shot. The ball is in an area that he isn't going to be blocking his view of the basket. And now, after you shoot it, follow through for us, okay?
Big pressure. Ooh.
Okay. Now, as Lee was getting ready to release the ball came off his fingertips, and he shot it and followed through. The difference in what we're talking about is that in finishing with your hand in the basket, you're not finishing at the basket, but following through. That's going to put a good rotation on the basketball and make the shot a lot easier. If you don't swish it, it's also going to have a chance to bounce around and have a shooter's touch, as we say, and have a chance to still go in. So finish this time, Lee, with your hand in the basket by breaking your wrist, and your fingers are going to be pointing back down.
Nothing but that, Coach. Good tip.
There's always something to be said about good coaching, but you know, free throw shooting is something that is you're only successful at through repetition. You have to shoot a lot of free throws. I know that the great free throw shooters, you know, they'll shoot 100 a day. Right. And one thing that we ask our players to do is we shoot before and after practice. But if they have some class, there's some time that they're not in class, maybe in the morning, come by and just put their sneakers on, come out and shoot some extra free throws, and that's the only way you can really improve.
And it's something that the Redbirds have really improved at all season long. Thanks, Coach, for the clinic. We'll be back with more on Bob Bender on basketball in just a minute. Time now for the answer to our Redbird trivia question, brought to you by our friends over at Century Chevrolet Geo Nissan. Of course, the three-point line hasn't been around for that long a time, and it's a very rare occasion when a player hits a four-point play. He makes the three-point shot, is fouled, goes to the line, and makes the free throw for the four-point play. The last time it was done by a Redbird, in last year's NCAA tournament against Michigan, it was Ricky Jackson. And you haven't seen many of those, have you? I've only seen two, I guess.
That's the only one that I have seen. I'll take it back. I did see one at Duke. Danny Ferry had one. But that was the only one that we had last year and up to this time as well. It's a big play. I mean, it's a lot of points awfully quickly, but that was early in the game when we were playing extremely well. And, you know, I think that play itself might have shown the confidence that we did have going into the Michigan game.
And of course, new rule this year, if you're fouled when you shoot beyond the three-point line, you get 3 free throws. You've got Creighton this afternoon, a chance for the Blue Jays to get some redemption for 2 losses at the end of last year, one in the final game of the regular season and one in the Valley Tournament.
Well, there's revenge is a motive. They have all the incentive they need for that from last year. I think the thing that's upmost in Creighton's mind is that, you know, their goal this year with Hartstadt and Gallagher being seniors is to win the Valley regular season and tournament. And to do that, they've got to win here. And I think there is no question in my mind that they're going to come in here as ready to play as maybe any game thus far this season, or maybe in Tony's career at Creighton. A good indication of that is that last night at the Drake game, he was at the game himself to do the scouting, and that shows you the importance they're putting on this ball game.
Still, they've shown some weaknesses. They're 3-2 in the Valley, lost twice, started 0-2.
Well, I think that the problems that they have are when both Bob Hartstadt and Chad Gallagher are in foul trouble. Changes the outlook of that team drastically. They still remain their strengths very obviously with those two guys inside, and then with, I think, very adequate and sometimes superb three-point shooting. If they're shooting the ball well from three-point range, then they're very difficult to defend because the tendency is to go in and help inside. They're kicking the ball out and they're hitting three-pointers. That's what happened to us last year in each and every game. But this year, we're not going to change our approach. We're still going to play both Gallagher and Hartstadt basically the same way, but we've got to do a better job of being able to get back to our men when they relocate the ball to the perimeter.
You've got Loyola Monday night. You'll play Southwest Missouri State again before we talk to you. And I guess the great thing about the two-game win streak, you're not in the basement in the Valley anymore, so that's good news.
It was good looking in the paper and seeing us crawl out of there. The game for us on Saturday with Creighton is awfully big because then we can go to 500 if we win, and from that point on, you are a factor in the race. Loyola is a game for us to continue to improve with. They're improved, and I think one good thing about Loyola is that with a number of Chicago kids, we've lost to UIC, we've lost to DePaul. Here's another chance to play a Chicago team. I think there's some pride factor that's going to be involved in that game. Then to come back on the following Saturday and play Southwest Missouri in the 11 o'clock TV game for the Valley. We've gained confidence. We know we can play with Southwest. Playing in the at that time in the morning. Hopefully we'll be fresh by that time because the Loyola game will be our fourth game in a week.
Good luck against the Blue Jays this afternoon, Coach.
Thanks.
We'll talk to you next week on Bob Bender.